The story begins several years from now, when rising unemployment and homelessness had driven Los Angeles into a crime epidemic. Jails were so overcrowded that the government had created red zones to contain dangerous criminals. Yet, hundreds of police officers were killed on duty every day. In response, the government decided to create the Mars Court, an AI-based judicial system that would determine who should be acquitted and who should receive the death penalty. This system was implemented because traditional courts took too long, and now decisions about criminals could be made just hours after their crimes. Within 2 years, the program had sentenced 18 people to death, reducing the crime rate by 68%, saving millions in taxpayer dollars, and restoring a sense of security among the public. We then see a courtroom where Detective Chris awakens, tied to a chair with a promotional video of the Mars program playing on the screen in front of him. Suddenly, AI Judge Maddox appears on the screen and announces that the trial can begin because Chris's alcohol had finally worn off. Maddox explains that Chris had been unconscious for about 6 hours and instructs him to swear to tell the truth. When Chris swears on the Bible, Maddox reveals that he is accused of murdering his wife. Police body cam footage shows a team entering Chris's home, finding his wife Nicole lying in a pool of blood while their daughter Britt cried nearby. Nicole had been stabbed, and when the police asked who did it, she named Chris. Shocked, Chris felt his mind go blank. Maddox clarifies that no one else was present at the time, making Chris suspect that Nicole was lying. Upon searching the internet, Chris finds that his name is now on every news channel, showing his arrest and support for the Mars program. In reality, Chris and his partner Jack had previously caught the real murderer, David, who was the first criminal in the Mars trial. Maddox asks Chris what he wants to say in court. Chris claims he is innocent, but Maddox analyzes the evidence and determines there is a 97.5% probability that he is guilty. Chris is told that to avoid execution, he must reduce this probability to 92% within 90 minutes. He is granted access to every camera and database in the city and can connect to any device or resident. If he fails, the chair he is seated on will deliver a lethal electric shock. As the timer starts, Maddox begins showing evidence. Chris was at work at 8:51 a.m., but went straight home instead of leaving his car. Nicole refused to open the door, saying he should communicate through his lawyer. Angered, Chris broke the door open, and Nicole tried to stop him. Footage shows Chris inside the house for 26 minutes. Soon after, their daughter Britt returned from a friend's house, screaming. The investigation revealed Nicole had been stabbed by a right-handed attacker, injuring her spine and liver. Fresh blood was also found on Chris's clothes. After leaving the house, Chris went to a bar and, despite insisting his innocence, was visibly intoxicated and confrontational. Chris fled the building, attempted to steal a car, and was eventually subdued, losing consciousness. Maddox attributes all of this behavior to alcohol. Chris requests to speak with Britt, but trial rules only allow witnesses to be contacted via call, and those under 18 cannot be contacted. Britt was at her grandparents' house. However, rules also allowed someone related to the deceased to send a message requesting a call. Chris struggles to communicate and eventually instructs Maddox to send an automatic message to Britt, hoping she would trust her father. Meanwhile, videos from Alcoholics Anonymous show Rob scolding Chris for not calling when he felt like drinking. Rob worked with Nicole, and when she missed her shift, he informed the police. Maddox then shows Chris the full profile of his and Nicole's relationship. Chris and Nicole had fallen in love 20 years ago, married 3 years later, and had Britt a year after that. Life was happy until Chris's partner was killed on a red duty assignment, after which Chris relapsed into alcoholism, straining the family. Nicole considered divorce. Messages sent to family and friends revealed Chris had lost his temper 57 times over the past 6 months. Britt was also discovered to have a secret social media account, posting her party outfits and telling a friend that her mother often cried due to Chris's drinking. Britt eventually called Chris, crying uncontrollably. He reassured her that he did not kill her mother and that the police had wrongfully arrested him. Unfortunately, Britt's grandfather forcibly ended the call. Maddox reminds Chris that he has 1 hour and 8 minutes remaining. Chris immediately calls Jack, who is still working on Nicole's crime scene. They examine every corner of the house digitally. The reconstruction shows a broken vase in the living room, likely during Nicole's struggle. Blood-stained footprints of Britt are found in the kitchen, and marks on the wall indicate a struggle. A broken plate suggests Nicole tried to defend herself, and a knife is missing from a set, which was used in the murder. Chris' fingerprints are found on the knife. Chris defended himself, saying, "It's my house, brother. I use it for cooking. How else would I chop vegetables?" Meanwhile, the police had also found some hair, skin, and DNA, which matched Chris exactly. Chris then checked Nicole's phone records because he remembered that she had texted someone after their argument. However, no text or call records from that time are found. Chris remembered she had a work phone as well. Maddox was unaware that Nicole had a second phone. Using the call logs, Chris found the number and called it inside the house. Jack heard a ringtone and followed the sound to a car parked outside. She broke the window, retrieved Nicole's phone, and discovered that it was unregistered. There were no records for it. The phone had only contacted a single number, which was also purchased from the black market and unregistered. Maddox called that secret number. When the person heard the voice, they immediately hung up. Even this short interaction was enough to track the location. Jack then took off on her flying bike to the site. Maddox realized that Chris had already suspected Nicole was hiding something, and as a result, Chris's probability of being guilty dropped to 0.1%. The phone was found in a hotel, and someone was trying to smuggle it out. Jack, along with 2 other officers, ran to block the back door where a man named Patrick was attempting to escape. Upon seeing the police, Patrick ran back inside, starting a cat-and-mouse chase. Maddox checked his profile and found Patrick was a chef who hadn't paid his rent and faced 2 fraud charges. The officers pursued Patrick inside the hotel, but he entered an area with no cameras and managed to evade them. Jack then deployed a drone, which located Patrick on the roof, and the officers captured him. Patrick claimed, "I didn't do anything. I only ran because he was scared. I don't trust the police. How would I know what accusations they are making?" Chris was shocked. What was Nicole doing with this man? Patrick admitted he had a relationship with Nicole and had gone on a few dates with her. However, things never went further. Nicole had used unregistered phones for private communication. Soon, Maddox obtained footage confirming their meetings. Patrick also proved he had been at work all day, corroborated by security cameras. He could not be the killer. Despite this, Jack had him arrested to prevent him from fleeing. Only 53 minutes remained on Chris's timer. Due to Patrick being innocent, Chris's probability of guilt jumped to 98%, as now Nicole appeared to have cheated on him. Maddox searched further footage, showing Nicole confronting Chris in the garage while he was drinking, revealing his violent temper when intoxicated. Chris had joined a support group where he met Rob, who helped him stay sober for a while. Losing Rob had been a huge blow. Another video showed Chris and Rob in a police car, approaching a criminal. At that moment, Chris received a call from Nicole. Rob advised Chris to take the call and left. Unfortunately, the criminal shot Rob and then collided his car with the police vehicle. Chris immediately placed Rob back in the car and promised to take him to the hospital while still chasing the criminal. He rammed the criminal's car with his own, causing it to crash. Sadly, Rob later died from his injuries. Chris continued the chase, cornered the criminal near water, and arrested him. The man was eventually released. Chris regretted deeply not having shot him when he had the chance. Maddox was uninterested in this, reminding Chris to focus on saving his own case. Chris explained that when he arrived at work, he noticed the alcohol bottle in his car was missing, assuming Nicole had taken it. He went straight home, and a heated argument broke out. In anger, he broke a vase Nicole loved, causing her to get slightly injured and some blood to stain his clothes. After that, Chris couldn't remember what happened and began to worry he might have killed Nicole. Maddox reminded him that only 43 minutes remained and all investigative tools were available. Chris called Patrick in jail, asking if Nicole was under stress. Patrick explained that she was under pressure at work due to missing chemicals and had to monitor her co-workers. Chris suspected that the criminal might have been connected to Nicole's office. Maddox confirmed that none of her co-workers were seen in the area after a Sunday barbecue party. Chris then sent Jack to the Viking shipping depot, where Nicole worked, while he reviewed barbecue party footage to identify Nicole's co-workers. Maddox noted that each had someone to vouch for their location at the time of the murder. Chris also checked footage from a neighbor's camera, but there was a technical issue, so it was being reprocessed. Chris noticed 3 extra people in Rob's car from the barbecue footage. He called Rob to ask who he gave a ride to. Rob named them, explaining they did not return with him, and no one had taken leave from work the next day. Anxiously, Chris rewatched Britt's video from last night and checked timestamps. The video coincided with when Chris was at work, confirming he could not have been home to intimidate Nicole. Britt's testimony now became crucial, so Maddox allowed him to call her. Britt was angry because she had seen the video of Chris's arrest and realized he had secretly resumed drinking. The internet considered Chris guilty, and Britt began to doubt him too. Her grandfather tried to hang up, but Maddox prevented it, as it was part of the trial. Chris asked Britt what she heard the previous night. She said she heard her mother crying and strange noises inside the house. Her social media video showed her investigating the noises, and Chris noticed the basement door was open, a door that was normally never opened. Britt said that she hadn't even gone to the basement the previous night. Chris immediately asked Maddox to enhance the image, and a hand appeared at the basement door. This revealed that one of the barbecue guests had not left after the party and had been hiding in the basement for 2 days. To identify the mysterious man, Chris checked Nicole's company servers. While going through emails, he discovered that someone had been creating fake stock records to cover up 300 kilograms of missing chemicals over the past 6 months. The chemical urea granules was used in fertilizers and dermatological products, but in the red zones, it could also be used to manufacture extremely dangerous illegal substances. Chris then found an email instructing Nicole to meet someone named Holt at the docks. Security footage of the meeting showed Nicole arguing with Holt, who pleaded, "Don't go to the police. Give me a few more days. I can fix everything." Nicole refused as her job was at stake. Holt became angry and started throwing things around. Checking Holt's emails, Chris discovered he was into gambling and heavily in debt, and Rob had been helping him financially. This revelation reduced Chris's guilt probability to 94.7%. Chris then tried calling Rob, but Holt answered, saying Rob's phone was missing and he would find him. Maddox tried to track Holt's location during the murder, but found nothing. Chris instructed Maddox to recheck the neighbor's camera footage, which showed movement in the bushes, though the footage was still uploading. Holt later returned to the call, admitting that he couldn't find Rob. When Chris accused him of stealing the chemicals, Holt revealed the truth. Rob had actually stolen them. Holt had considered himself indebted to Rob and had tried to assist in Nicole's case. A co-worker confirmed that Rob had left with a truck. Holt added that Rob had missed work that day and was last seen at the barbecue party. Rob had told him to give lifts to other people with his car while he stayed a bit longer. Maddox tracked the missing truck, and Chris sent Jack to follow it, remembering that Rob had a licensed firearm. Finally, the neighbor's camera footage uploaded, showing Rob exiting from the trunk of the neighbor's car. Despite this, Chris's probability of being guilty only dropped to 93.4%, which angered him. He started arguing with Maddox, whose system began glitching under the pressure. Only 19 minutes remained. Chris contacted some friends living in the forest to inform them about Rob's guns. Jack and her team surrounded Rob's house, but found it empty. Chris realized Rob had removed the tracker from the truck and left it at home. Maddox attempted to find the truck in the city, but its license plate was missing, meaning Rob had deceived even the system. Chris instructed Jack to issue an alert for trucks at Viking Shipping Company, where Rob's home had a broken photo showing a hand on the torn corner. Rob had grown up in a children's home, and his records had been lost in a data hack, which delayed Maddox in finding the original photo online. Later, the police found chemicals and burned evidence inside Rob's garage. Tools indicated that Rob wasn't selling chemicals, but was making extremely dangerous substances. The truck plates were also found there, along with a book detailing bomb-making procedures. If Rob had made a bomb, it was crucial to identify the target. A camera then caught the truck speeding downtown. At the same time, Maddox found part of an old photo, revealing another boy, David, the first criminal Mars had executed. David and Rob were brothers. Rob had been adopted by a different family, and his surname changed. After David's death, Rob befriended Chris, meaning all of this was part of Rob's plan. Chris realized Rob wanted revenge and was heading straight toward the courtroom with a bomb. A drone captured the truck close up, confirming that Rob was driving. While steering, he was talking to someone in the passenger seat, though the camera couldn't show the passenger. Suspecting danger, Chris tried to call Britt, but her grandfather answered, saying she had gone to a nearby park. Checking security cameras, Chris was horrified to see that Rob had kidnapped Britt. Meanwhile, the police found a timer in Rob's garage. Everyone scrambled to escape. Most officers got out safely. Suddenly, there was a massive explosion, destroying the garage and injuring officers inside. Chris tried contacting Jack, but got no response. Only a small portion of the chemicals had been used in the garage bomb, but Maddox calculated that the truck carried the remaining materials, which should have destroyed the entire city if detonated. Jack called, unharmed and ready to chase the truck. Chris's probability of guilt dropped to 0%. Maddox tried to stop the trial, but Chris refused, insisting on keeping access to the system to stop Rob. Maddox reminded him only 9 minutes remained, after which the chair could electrocute him. Chris, unconcerned for his own life, wanted only to save the city. His determination caused Maddox to glitch. Chris explained that together they could save the city finally. Maddox agreed to start the trial. Police vehicles chased the truck relentlessly. Several times, they tried to block the route, but Rob escaped every time. News channels were broadcasting the chase live. Rob began driving recklessly, colliding with civilian vehicles. One police car crashed into a store. When the truck reached a bridge, a SWAT helicopter tried to deploy an agent, and police cars attempted to block the truck again. Rob rammed into them forcefully, removing the obstacles. With no safe place for the agent to land, Jack was forced to give the order. Shoot at Rob, regardless of Britt being inside the truck. Chris protested, but Jack ignored him. Maddox agreed it was the best plan. A bomb was placed under the truck via a remote control car, but the connection failed and it didn't detonate. Chris suspected Maddox might have hacked him, but she gave no reply. Only 4 minutes remained. Maddox issued an alert to evacuate the area. Chris instructed Jack to stay ahead of the truck. He saw Britt pleading for help while he tried to reason with Rob. Rob shouted in anger that David was innocent. As Rob prepared to speak further, Jack opened fire. The recoil made her fall off her bike. The truck crashed directly into the courthouse. Time ran out, and the execution chair activated. Maddox, running on backup power due to a system outage, couldn't immediately stop it. Rob used Britt as a shield, firing at any guard in the lobby. With 10 seconds left, the chair activated. Chris screamed for help. At the last moment, Maddox came back online and stopped the trial just in time. Chris reached the lobby via elevator, picked up a dead guard's vest, and instructed Maddox to find all information about David. Meanwhile, he tried to calm Rob, who suddenly pulled a detonator. Just as Rob was about to press the button, Maddox appeared on a screen, giving Rob the chance to clear his brother's name. Rob swore that during the murder, he was on the phone with David. Maddox immediately replied that David had no phone when his body was found. A heated argument ensued between Rob and Maddox. Britt bravely bit Rob's hand to free herself. Chris seized the opportunity, tackling Rob, and they struggled over the detonator. Rob continued firing his gun, but Chris disabled the detonator by pulling some wires and kicked the gun out of Rob's hand. Chris grabbed the gun and aimed at Rob, his eyes burning with anger and desire for revenge for Nicole. Britt, crying, pleaded, "Please, don't do this, Dad." Chris paused. Rob shouted again that he had called the police while speaking with David during the murder. Suddenly, Jack fired, hitting Rob directly. Chris immediately stopped her from firing again. Rob, lying on the ground, hesitated and revealed he had spoken to a woman at the police station who promised to check David's call history. Whoever arrested David knew the truth. Maddox checked the police call records, confirming that David's call history matched Rob's claim. Chris suddenly remembered that Jack herself had arrested David. He confronted her, but she remained silent. Maddox scanned her history and revealed that David's phone had been removed from the evidence box by Jack and thrown into the river. Jack admitted it, explaining she wanted to show the public that the Mars system worked and that city safety was paramount. Chris replied firmly, "The city needs not just safety, but justice." He ordered the remaining officers to arrest Jack. Finally, after everything ended, Chris ran to his daughter and hugged her. Maddox realized she had taken the life of an innocent person and questioned herself, asking what she had done. Chris calmly said, "Even AI can make mistakes, and you should learn from them."